For years, fans wondered if the magic of Pretty Woman would ever return. And now, after decades of silence, something unbelievable has happened. The love story that once lit up Hollywood is stepping back into the spotlight. Pretty Woman 2 is finally real, and Julia Roberts and Richard Gere are together again. This isn't a rumor. This isn't fan fiction. This is the comeback the world never expected, one filled with nostalgia, emotion, and the kind of spark only these two can create. It begins with a feeling, one that longtime fans know all too well. A mix of curiosity, excitement, and the strange hope that maybe, just maybe, a classic love story could live again. For more than 30 years, Pretty Woman wasn't just a movie. It was a moment in time. A moment that shaped romance in cinema, inspired countless rewatches, and created an on-screen pair so iconic that no one ever forgot them. As the years passed, people asked the same question over and over: will we ever see Vivian and Edward again? Hollywood stayed quiet. The actors moved on to different roles, new stories, new challenges. And yet, something about Pretty Woman never faded. It stayed in people's hearts. It stayed in pop culture. It stayed alive. Then the impossible happened. Whispers started. A leaked meeting here, a studio rumor there. Behind closed doors, something began to take shape. A script idea. A reunion pitch? A spark strong enough to bring two legends back to the table. Julia Roberts, known for her warm smile and unshakable charm, and Richard Gere, the calm, graceful gentleman of Hollywood, sat down once more. And fans had no idea that history was quietly repeating itself. The sequel isn't just another movie. It's an event. A return. A moment that pulls the past into the present. A moment that reminds the world why the first film became a classic. And as the news spreads, one thing becomes clear: people aren't excited only because a sequel exists. They're excited because Julia and Richard are together again. The chemistry that once lit up the screen is ready to shine again. And this time, the world is watching closer than ever. 35 years have passed since Vivian stepped into Edward's life and changed everything. Time has moved on, but their story has not been forgotten. The world still remembers the girl with the fearless smile and the man who finally learned how to open his heart. But what happened after the fairy tale ride through Beverly Hills? Life, as always, had its own plans. Edward Lewis, once the sharp and unshakable businessman, has grown quieter with age. After leaving the world of ruthless deals and endless flights, he built something gentler, something real. He spent years trying to understand who he was without the power, without the pressure, without the walls he once used to protect himself. He became a mentor instead of a master, someone who guides young entrepreneurs instead of breaking them down. But success in business never replaced the one thing he walked away from too early. Love. Vivian, on the other hand, transformed in her own bold way. What began as a chance encounter became the start of a life she never imagined. She embraced education, pushed past her fears, and slowly shaped her identity into something strong and proud. She built a foundation for women who needed a second chance, just like she once did. Her name became a symbol of hope, proof that a person's past never defines their worth. But even with all her achievements, one part of her heart stayed untouched. A part only one man ever reached. Their lives continued on separate paths, filled with victories and mistakes, joys and regrets. Neither of them planned a reunion. They told themselves the past was the past. They told themselves that chapter was closed. But fate has never cared about human plans. One unexpected event sets everything in motion. Again, a charity gala tied to Vivian's foundation. A silent donor. A familiar name on the guest list. A room full of memories waiting to wake up. When Edward and Vivian walk into the same space after decades apart, the air shifts. The spark they once had doesn't fade, it hides, waiting for the right moment to return. And now, after years of distance, their worlds are about to collide once more. Not through a limousine door or a business deal, but through life's quiet way of saying some connections never truly end, behind the scenes. Long before the world heard a single word about Pretty Woman 2, something rare was happening inside Hollywood's secret rooms. A quiet buzz began to spread, not from press releases or leaks, but from the energy of people who knew something big was coming. Producers, writers, and studio heads felt it first. They knew that if Julia Roberts and Richard Gere ever agreed to reunite, the world would stop for a moment. And so, a team of storytellers began working on an idea bold enough to bring them back. The first step was reaching out. When Julia Roberts received the proposal, she didn't answer right away. She sat with it, remembering the laughter on set, the long nights rehearsing, the way the original film changed her entire life. She knew what Vivian meant to millions of people. This wasn't just another role, this was a legacy. She read the pitch again and again, and slowly the idea started to feel right. The timing felt right. The world felt ready. Richard Gere reacted the same way. He was protective of Edward, of the growth and heart the character carried. He didn't want a sequel unless the story honored what came before. As he read the new script pages, he found something he didn't expect: emotion, depth, a second-chance story that treated the characters with care, not nostalgia alone. For the first time in years, he felt that old pull, the same spark that made him say yes back in 1990, the moment that sealed everything was the table read. Julia walked in with her familiar warm presence, and Richard greeted her with the calm smile fans loved. Cameras weren't allowed. No fans, no reporters, only a few people who would later admit that the room felt electric. When they began reading Vivian and Edward's lines, everyone felt the same thing. The chemistry was untouched. It hadn't aged. It hadn't faded. It simply waited. Word spread quietly through the studio halls. Assistants whispered. Executives smiled. Even longtime crew members felt emotional seeing the pair together again. Costume tests brought back memories. The red dress, the classic suits, the elegant charm that defined the first film. It felt like watching history repeat itself, but wiser, deeper, and more meaningful. When news finally broke, fans exploded with excitement. Social media was flooded with clips, edits, and theories. The world wasn't just happy about a sequel, they were celebrating a reunion. A reunion that proves some stories don't end. They simply pause, waiting for the right moment to return. As the cameras begin to roll and the world leans in with anticipation, the heart of Pretty Woman 2 comes into focus, not through glitter, fame, or nostalgia, but through emotion. This sequel isn't built on repeating the past. It's built on exploring what love becomes after life has tested it, shaped it, and softened it. Vivian and Edward are no longer the young dreamers the world first met. They carry memories, mistakes, and wisdom. And that is where the new story finds its power. The film opens with scenes that feel both familiar and new, the shine of Beverly Hills, the hum of car engines, the quiet corners of old places that once meant everything. But now, everything looks different, stronger, deeper, touched by time. Vivian's Foundation Gala becomes the spark that sets the entire story in motion. When she steps onto the stage, she stands as a woman who has rebuilt her life from the ground up. Somewhere in the crowd, Edward watches her with a mix of pride, regret, and something he hasn't felt in years. Hope. Their reunion isn't loud or dramatic. It's gentle, human, a small smile, a quiet breath, a moment where two people realize they are standing in front of the one person who changed them forever. The film explores this moment slowly, letting the audience feel every heartbeat. It doesn't rush. It lets time speak. As the story unfolds, we see their lives blend again, awkwardly at first, then naturally, then beautifully. Some scenes are soft and emotional, like the two of them walking through old streets they once visited, speaking honestly for the first time in decades. Others are filled with tension as unresolved feelings rise to the surface. Fears, old wounds, unanswered questions. But through every moment, one truth becomes clear: love doesn't disappear simply because time has passed. It waits, it grows. It transforms. The film leans into themes of second chances, healing, and choosing love even when life has taken different paths. It shows that growing older doesn't dim the fire of romance. It makes it burn warmer, steadier, more meaningful. Vivian realizes she never stopped wanting someone who truly saw her. Edward discovers he never stopped needing someone who made him feel human. And together, they face the possibility that fate isn't random, it's patient. The final scenes build toward an emotional rise, filled with the familiar elegance and charm that made the original film unforgettable. Without giving away the ending, the message becomes clear. Pretty Woman 2 is not just returning to a love story, it is completing one. A love story reborn, shaped by time, strengthened by pain, and brought back to life by two people who were never meant to stay apart.